Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News, Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. Stand up for your country on the Ides of March. We will get to old Julius Caesar at the end of the program. But I want to talk today about empathy, something that Julius really didn't have much of, and whether or not you believe the most powerful man in the country today, Joe Biden, has empathy for the American people. That's us, okay? So that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Now, empathy is feeling the pain of other people, really feeling it, not faking it. Many people go, but they're not real involved with the feelings of others. Empathetic people give money to charity, they volunteer, they help out, they demand policies that will right wrongs. So if you are one of those people, then you are empathetic. Unfortunately, this thing has wreaked havoc on empathy because there is no sympathy or feeling on the machines that dominate our lives. And you can see horrible things every single day and you almost become numb to the horrible things. Now, the pictures out of Ukraine, obviously, many people feel very empathetic about the suffering those people are going through over there. Americans are rallying to give money and to demand policies to help the Ukrainians. But a guy like Putin, one man and one man only, can destroy human beings at will on this planet. Putin has no empathy for anybody. He's a sociopath. Sociopath means you have no feelings toward anyone but yourself. Okay, a narcissist does that as well, but is a little bit of a difference. Sociopaths are much more aggressive toward other people than narcissists are. Narcissists are all about them. Sociopaths want to hurt you. Okay, so where does Joe Biden stand on this? Perhaps the best measure is the rising prices in America that are really hurting working class poor people and pretty much all of us, right? So under President Biden's first year, inflation is soaring out of control. Some of that is Putin's invasion. Some of it is COVID, but not most of it. Most of it are just bad policies by Joe. However, he's never going to cop to it. Here's what he said yesterday. Go.
Let's be absolutely clear about why prices are high now. They're high for two reasons. One was COVID. The way the global economy works, and now, second big reason for inflation is Vladimir Putin and gas prices, not a joke. We've seen the price of gas go up over $1 just since he put his troops on the border of Ukraine. They went up $1.05.
But what Biden will not say is that under him, before Putin, gas prices went up $1 from what they were under Donald Trump. Now, the COVID situation is more intense under Biden. There's no doubt about that. Last year, Trump, about 20 million COVID cases in the USA. First year of Biden, about 53 million. And that was Omicron. Omicron wasn't as vicious as the first wave of COVID, so there weren't as many deaths and as many hospitalizations, but it did disrupt the economy. Did it cause inflation? I doubt it. Because under Trump, in that wave that came in of COVID, remember, we didn't have a vax when it first came under Trump. There was no inflation, 1.25%. That's nothing. Okay, so COVID was here, it hit us hard. And the government shut down in April 2020. Completely shut down. Still no inflation. So I find it very hard to believe that it's a different situation with COVID vis-a-vis the economy under Biden. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have a real good economic expert coming up and he will tell us. The second thing is that when you have policies that strangle energy production, as Biden does, then you're going to have higher energy prices. Never cop to it. Okay? Never. So my question is always simple. What has Joe Biden done in his first 14 months in office that's empathetic? Can you give me one? Bill@BillO'Reilly.com, Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. Give me one. Just one. That's all I'm asking. Because I don't have one for you. I don't. So he could ask Congress to suspend the gasoline tax, 50 cents a gallon. That'd drop prices immediately, right? Has Biden done that? No. All right, why? We don't know. A bunch of individual states, Connecticut, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, New York, California, Maine, Tennessee, Maryland, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, Michigan, kicking it around to drop their state gas taxes. But Governor Whitmer in Michigan, another unbelievable pinhead, she vetoed it. So you people in Michigan, you get her. Yay. Anyway, Biden inexplicably has not gone to Congress and asked for a drop in the federal gasoline tax of 50 cents, which would provide immediate relief. No. And he's not going to explain why. Think Joe Biden cares about victims of crime? No. Has he said anything about it? Not much. Is the Justice Department actively working with local and state law enforcement to drop violent crime? No. They're interested in arresting and prosecuting Donald Trump. They're interested in violent crime. Okay. How about border enforcement? Put migrants aside, and tens of thousands of them being abused by cartel smugglers, but just the fentanyl and heroin and methamphetamine alone, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. Is Biden tighten up border enforcement? No. Now, these are all true. It's no debate. There's no debate. It's just true. Okay? And finally, throughout his career, all Biden has sold is, I'm Joe from Scranton and I feel your pain. I'm working class Joe. I feel your pain. Do you really believe he feels your pain? Really? Well, if you do, I want you to write me and tell me why. Because he doesn't do anything to help anybody, as far as I can see. It's all party politics, ideology. All right. So Biden's going to Brussels next week for a NATO summit, send a message to Putin, who couldn't care less about Ukraine. Now, I don't have a beef with Biden about how he's handling Putin at this juncture, because I always put myself in a position, if I were president, what would I do? I don't want, and you don't want, even if you don't know it, believe me, you do not want World War III. So we in the West have to be patient. We have to constrain ourselves. It's nothing better than for special forces to march into that Kremlin and do what we did to bin Laden, to Putin. Nothing better on this planet. But we can't do it. Because in a shoot war between NATO and Russia, millions will die. And without nukes, millions will die just in a conventional war. That's how close quarter it is in Europe with, high-tech weapons. So you've got to be restrained, but you got to tell them, and Biden has, you attack a NATO country, we're coming after you. So right now, I don't have a beef with Biden about Ukraine, watching him closely, obviously. So scheduled today, signed a law, Consolidated Appropriations Act. All that is the $1.5 trillion to keep the government open until October, the end of the fiscal year. It's too much money, but that's what Democrats do. All right? And then later on in the afternoon, he celebrates Women's History Month by spotlighting Equal Pay Day. Okay, that's good. I have no beef with any of that. I don't like the $1.5 trillion because that's part of the reason we have inflation, because the government prints and spends too much money. Now, the inflation is hitting minority people harder than white people, and the reason is economics, simple economics, that poor people, many of whom in the minority precincts are poor, they don't have any reserves. So if they have to spend more for food and gas and fuel, they go into debt because they don't have much money. It's very simple. Anybody can understand it. So there's a poll, Wall Street Journal. It asks, thinking about you and your family, which of the following best describes your situation when it comes to the cost of living? It's rising and creating major financial strains, 30%, rising and minor financial strains, 28%, total 58% of Americans suffering because of rising prices. I think it's more than that, but you got to figure that 40% say, all right, I can afford it, but they're still annoyed, okay? According to that poll, again from the Wall Street Journal, 35% of Black, Hispanic, Asian Americans say they were experiencing more pain, and 28% of whites say more pain. Okay, so 35 minority, 28 white. This is experiencing real pain. Wholesale prices in February up 10%, highest on record. Way to go, Joe. No, it's COVID, it's Putin. Yeah. Well, what are you doing about it? COVID's over now, pretty much, in this country. So what are you doing? Dropping a gas tax? No. Okay, so this is from the Labor Department. Highest wholesale price rise for a month on record. That means in the coming months, we're all going to pay even more than we're paying now, because wholesale is what the manufacturers and the transportation people pay. Okay, and then it gets passed on to the consumer. Then, in conjunction with that, there's a recession warning, something called the yield curve, and I can't even explain it to you. I'm not smart enough, but it's flattening out. When the yield curve flattens out, you're more likely to have a recession, which I think we will have come summer. But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. As you may know, inflation is out of control thanks to the policies of this administration. Retirement accounts are especially vulnerable now. When inflation goes up, your savings goes down. Protect your hard-earned wealth against inflation. Please call the people I trust at American Hartford Gold. They will show you how to protect your savings by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. They are the highest rated firm in the country with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Takes just a short phone call, and they will deliver physical gold and silver right to your door or put inside your IRA or 401k. Plus, tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you, and they will give you up to $2,500 of free silver on your first order. So please don't wait. Call 866-501-5201. 866-501-5201 or text Bill to 65532. Again, 866-501-5201 or text Bill to 65532. Joining us now from Washington, D.C., Kevin Hassett, the former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Trump. So he worked on economic issues. Were you there all 4 years of Trump? How long were you there?
Almost all 4 years. I left in the summer and then I went back for COVID. So I was only gone for 6 months of the 4 years.
I have some bullet questions. So in the 4 years of Trump, no inflation, right?
Correct.
Why?
Basically, supply and demand kept up with each other. Trump had supply-side tax cuts and deregulation, and that meant that there were lots of new businesses, small businesses, new factories brought back to the U.S. And so there was plenty of supply. And when there's plenty of supply, then the suppliers compete for your demand, and that keeps the prices low. What Biden
that makes sense to me. Right. I understood that, Kevin. Don't now kick your coverage here. Just keep it in my zone. I understand that. Okay. Yeah. More competition for products drive prices down. I got it. Okay. That's number one. Number two, under Trump, the Fed was printing money like crazy because we were spending money. Donald Trump is a big spender on the military and other things. Okay. So the Fed was printing a lot of money, but inflation still didn't go up. Same reason, supply and demand.
There's a big difference between that, and I promise not to kick it more than 45 yards on this one. But what's basically happened since Biden's been in office is that he's been printing checks and mailing them to people, and the Fed has been financing that. And so it's like you're dropping cash from a helicopter onto the economy. And when you do that, then prices go up because everybody's got more money in their pockets. When Trump was doing it, remember, because of Fauci, unfortunately, the economy was shut down. So people didn't necessarily have a paycheck. And so when the government mailed the money, it was just filling a hole. And so Trump filled the hole. Biden gave you money even though the hole was filled and you were back to normal. And so that's when the helicopter drop happened and inflation got out of control.
Okay. Now, do you believe that Joe Biden understands the last two answers you gave me? Does he have any idea about macroeconomics?
No, I don't think he does.
How about the people around him?
He doesn't really have a macroeconomist in his team except for Janet Yellen. And I think that Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, I'd love to see Bill O'Reilly read some of her writings and then talk about it, because it feels like she's been, rehashing Democratic talking points rather than giving sound economic advice. And that's one of the reasons we're in this mess.
Well, he won't even acknowledge the rise in gasoline, about the simplest economic equation we can give the folks, of more than $1 in his first year without Putin. Okay, so I mean, is he going to blame COVID for that when Trump had that too? And there was plenty of supply of oil when Biden took over, right? You guys were, the supply of oil and gas and everything was about right up to here when Trump left office. But as soon as Biden came in and slapped all the regulations on the industry, the supply went down, correct?
Yeah, that's right, Bill. And the other thing is, having been in the Oval with President Trump and in the Situation Room and everything, one of the things that Biden has said that annoys me the most and angers me the most is he's kind of like saying, look, it's not my fault, it's Putin's fault because he went into Ukraine. But Putin went into Ukraine because Biden is so weak. And so even if you take the Putin argument, then you should still say it's Biden's fault, because there's no way if Trump was in the White House that Putin would have gone into Ukraine.
But Mr. Hassett, I have to point out that's your opinion. That's not a provable fact, okay?
That's true.
Now, I hold the same opinion that you do, but I can't put it forth as fact because Putin, I think, is unstable. I don't think I don't think Putin's going to come out of this very well, but that's another opinion. But I want to stay in the factual zone here, because what Biden is telling the world and the American people is, hey, I'm going to have no responsibility for this bad economy here. I don't have any responsibility for the rise in gas and food prices. And that is a factual lie. It's just a lie.
Right. You're right about that. And it's the same thing that President Obama did. You might recall they told us when the economy was terrible that it's the new normal. They use these fancy words, secular stagnation, but they said it's the new normal. The economy can't grow fast ever again, and it's not our fault. And so once again, we have Democrats in the White House, and the economy's not doing so well, and they're once again claiming it's not their fault. But at some point, that pattern, I think, will be recognizable to citizens, and they'll do something about it.
And here's my most important question of the week, I think, not just the night. So I think there's going to be a recession as companies now are feeling the pain because they have higher costs across the board, including higher salaries, because the workforce is shaky. There aren't enough employees. We're looking for people at BillO'Reilly.com now, editorial people. I mean, it's not easy to find them. So if you have to spend more money on employees, on products, then you got to cut someplace else. So do you think there's going to be a recession?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a recession, and I think it's going to happen because the Fed isn't going to control inflation with the tiny little interest rate hikes that it's going to give us over the next 5 or 6 months, and that they're going to have to really whack the economy. And so the summer might be a little early, but by next January, sadly, I think that we're likely to have a recession. And here's a couple of things that are facts, not opinion, Bill, to stick on the table. Fact one is, if you look at what's happening at the gas pump and at the grocery store, then in March, when we get the inflation numbers for March, they're going to be like maybe up about 2% or up about 20% at an annual rate. And so it's going to be the highest inflation that we've seen anytime in the post-war period for March. And so with inflation that high, there's an enormous amount of pressure on the Fed to do something. But the only thing they can do is to raise interest rates. And the history of this is that inflation doesn't start going down until the interest rate is higher than the inflation rate. That's like a very regular pattern in the data. Again, that's just the truth. There's no way the Fed's going to lift the interest rate to 10%, but until they do, inflation's going to stay a serious problem.
That's really depressing.
I'm sorry.
It really is depressing because, I mean, a lot of Americans, they don't have a lot of reserves. And the only good news is that Biden and the Democratic Party are going to get their butts kicked in November. It has to happen. I mean, Americans are just going to go, enough. We don't care who it is. We don't want you. And I think that will happen. And that might actually help the price stability and the economy if the Republicans get in a position of power in Washington. Final question. If you are right and a recession kicks in, so America then becomes weakened on the world stage, because the stronger our economy is, the stronger our nation is. And so where do we find optimism here? Okay, where do we, the people, find optimism? Obviously, 80 million people voted for Joe Biden. They all, every single one of them, made a mistake in doing that. All right, but now we have to recover. Can we recover quickly?
Right. Bill, I hope I can come back and we can talk for a long time about this. But briefly, what I can say is people need to know that this is an easy problem to fix if you understand it. You understand it. I understand it. If there was somebody in Congress and in the White House that knew how to, what to do, which is like be friendly to supply, be friendly to small business, increase supply. If you do all that, then you can get ahead of the curve on inflation without causing a recession. And the last thing I want to say, just because I know that there are a lot of people that are watching that might be worried about this, is the people on Social Security, people on fixed incomes, thank goodness those checks are adjusted for inflation. So I know that there's a lot of pain from the inflation, but our senior citizens on fixed incomes getting Social Security, their checks are going to go up because of this inflation rate. And so, they shouldn't panic about it.
Okay,
that's
nobody
one
should
good thing
panic.
about policy.
Real quick, would you suspend the federal gas tax now to give people immediately relief?
That's not my first thing, but I would do that. Yeah, the first thing I would do is basically allow. Right now, ships aren't allowed to move U.S. oil from city to city within the U.S. because of this crazy thing called the Jones Act. So the first thing I would do is let Americans buy U.S. energy and try to expand U.S. energy. That'd have a big positive effect.
Yeah, just take all the regulations for 6 months off this insane attempt to get us off fossil fuels. That's a given. But I don't know why Biden's not dropping that federal gas tax. I mean, that would do him good if he did it. But again, I think you're correct in the top of the interview by saying he doesn't know what the deuce is going on. And that's really depressing. Mr. Hassett, we'll definitely have you back. In fact, I'm going to anoint you our go-to economic guy. It was very good. And if I can understand it, then I know you did your job well. And thanks for helping us out. We appreciate it.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here.
Supply chain issues have been a catalyst in bringing high-tech manufacturing back to the USA. My tech expert and founder of Brownstone Research calls it the Great Recalibration, and he discusses it in his newsletter, Near Future Report. For the past 35 years, he has helped his subscribers safely navigate volatile times, and he also answers your most pressing questions, like how to protect your money from inflation. What are the implications of a new digital currency and the Great Reset? What will the Fed do with interest rates? And what is expected from the stock market in 2022? Brownstone Research has been at the forefront of nearly every major market move for the past 35 years. Let Jeff Brown help you by signing up for his newsletter today at a 75% discount. It's a 12-month subscription for only $49. Please go to jeffbrowntech.com. 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 So here is the final thought of the day. Last week we told you about the look-away society we live in. So I'm doing a benefit, as I told you, for Geraldo Rivera's autism charity called LifeWork, LifeWorc.com. You can go to their website. It's sold out. Okay, and we thank you all. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to make fun of Geraldo, that alone, and we'll shoot it. We'll show everybody on TV, and you'll hear it on radio about the benefit. But anyway, I said last week that a lot of people just look away from people in bad conditions, and we shouldn't do that. And you know what else Americans are looking away from more and more these days? Opposing points of view. So when I was doing a factor on the Fox News Channel, every night we would bring in people who disagree with me, the smartest people we could find, and we debate. And it worked great. Now you don't see that. It's the same choir across the board, liberal station, conservative station, because people are now turning off TV and radio when they hear an opposing point of view. What is that? You know, be confident in your belief system, but be open enough to consider. Now, bad people, you walk away from. There's a difference. Thank you for watching and listening to the No Spin News. We'll see you tomorrow. Attention savvy investors looking for predictable monthly cash flow. How about double-digit targeted bonus returns? If you want the safety and security of a real estate investment, but without the hassles of being a landlord, you probably heard of NRIA. NRIA is an industry-leading real estate development firm in its 15th year. They develop in strategically located, lower-risk, high-demand neighborhoods that are based on supply-demand imbalance. They are a great fit for safety-oriented investors who want cash flow and diversification in carefully chosen real estate. So you can learn more about the NRIA Real Estate Development Fund at nria.net, or you can call 800-800-1414. That's easy, 800-800-1414.
An offer of securities is only made by the NRIA Private Placement Memorandum. Read it first. Past performance does not guarantee future results. NRIA is a real estate development firm. Learn more at nria.net.
Bill O'Reilly is back on TV and only on The First. No Spin News, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on The First.